Hi, I'm Nikki from Find Me Crafting. If you crochet or knit, you know the need for project bags is real. You need a place to keep all of the things you need for each project because most of us have more than one going at a time, right? But if you're like me, when you set down project number one to work on project number two, all that important information that I was sure I would remember for project number one, gone. It's gone forever. So I decided I needed a project bag that worked for me. These are handy dandy, easy to sew project bags. They can hold full skeins of yarn, a printed pattern, the crochet hook, the knitting needles, anything you might need for this project can go in one handy dandy little bag. And here's the best part. You can sew this nifty little pocket on the front. It's clear, you can see through it, and you can put a whip card right in there. There is space to put all of those important details so that you don't even have to worry about remembering them. You don't have to worry about this card being lost on the inside. You can pick this up and know exactly at a glance what you need, what you were using, what you were doing with this project when you set it down. I have whip cards available for free to print out from my website. There's various colors and designs, and I have them for crocheting and knitting. This bag is going to sit up by itself on a flat surface. You can put them on a shelf, you can put them in a box, and when you pick it up, you're going to easily be able to see all that information. You can make these in jelly vinyl, TPU printed clear vinyl, or just regular clear vinyl. They all work. If you can sew a straight line, I guarantee I can show you how to make these bags. You can make a whole pile for yourself so that you're ready for the next project that catches your eye, or you can make a pile for a friend and become their new favorite person in the world. Come on, I'll show you how. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any new patterns or projects. Here's what you're going to need for supplies. You're going to need the vinyl for the bag. You can use clear vinyl. This is a 12 gauge clear vinyl that I've been working with. This is a TPU printed clear vinyl. This is jelly vinyl. They will all work. I will say that the clear vinyl I find the hardest to work with just because it's hard to see it, because it's clear. It looks really great when it's done, but I struggle with clear vinyl. The pattern vinyl I found pretty easy to work with. The easiest to work with for me was the jelly vinyl because it is the least sticky. Whatever you're working with, you're going to need to cut 2 pieces of it, and they need to be 12.5 inches wide by 10.5 inches tall. If you're making the pocket on the front of the bag, you are going to need some clear vinyl. I recommend clear at least because that will be the easiest to see through, to see the actual work in progress card. I don't know if you can see, you are going to need to cut yourself a little rectangle of the clear vinyl. Once again, this is 12 gauge clear vinyl. This piece needs to be cut at 2.5 inches wide by 3 3/4 inches tall. Masking tape is very, very handy for holding that clear piece of vinyl in place on the front of your vinyl as you're getting ready to sew it. You're going to need one number 3 zipper. I like 14 inches. You need to be able to cut off the little stoppers on the ends and still have 11.5 inches. That's your goal, 11.5 inches, but without these pieces. So I work with 14-inch zippers. You are going to need a small amount of cotton fabric. We are going to use these little bits to make the zipper tabs on the end of the zipper. You can make 2 squares that are 2 inches by 2 inches. You're going to need a ruler of some kind. You're going to want a cutting mat and a cutting ruler and a rotary blade or some fabric scissors. You're going to want some fabric clips, not pins in this case, because if you pin this vinyl, it will not heal. That hole will remain there forever. So you're going to want to work with some clips. You're going to want a fabric marking pencil and also a Sharpie because we're going to be working on different types of fabric, and both of these will be very useful. You're going to need an iron and an ironing board. You're also going to want some coordinating or matching all-purpose thread and a sewing machine. And I have a couple of items that are not necessary but will make this project a little bit easier. One is a zipper foot, if you happen to have one of those for a sewing machine. The other is a Teflon foot or a non-stick foot. This is worth its weight in gold. They're not very expensive, but they make this project and any vinyl project so much easier. I found mine, this particular foot, sewing parts online. I highly recommend getting one of these. You're going to love it. And a standard hair dryer. That makes it a lot easier when you're flipping things out if you can heat up your vinyl. I'm going to start by getting my zipper ready. And the first step for that is to get my zipper tabs ready to go. So for this, you're going to need an iron. And what we're going to do is fold it with the wrong sides together, your little zipper tab. And we want to press that so we have a crease right here down the middle. Then you're going to open it up. And that line that you just created right down the middle, we're going to fold one of the sides up to just barely meet it and iron that in place. And we flip it around and do the same thing on the other side, that these are just not quite touching, but up to the center. So you have that center line, and we're going to iron that in place. And now you just want to fold it in half so that the sides match up. And one last iron. And this one is ready to go to be put on the zipper. So now I'm just going to repeat that process with my second zipper tab. I need to cut off this end, but I want to make sure I don't cut off my zipper. Did that just the other day. It's fixable, but it's a pain. You don't really want to do it. So just where that stopper is, I want to cut my zipper tape just past that. So now I have this end, and I want my whole thing to be 11.5 inches from my one edge that I've just cut. I'm going to measure 11.5 inches, and I'm going to cut the rest of my zipper. I'm going to get this ready to sew by lining up my edges at one end and taking one of my little zipper tabs, and I want to put the edge of the zipper all the way up to the crease in this zipper tab, and I'm going to clip that in place. I'm going to do the same thing for the other end, so it's all the way up against the crease, and I'm going to fold it over and clip it. Now I can take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew with about a 1/8 inch seam allowance from this edge here and just sew right across each end of my zippers. At this point, you can use any regular sewing foot that you want. I am going to be using the non-stick foot next, so that's just what I've put on so that I have less changing to do. So now you want to even up your zipper tabs so that they are the same width as your zipper tape. So you're just going to take your scissors and cut it right along the side of your zipper so it is even. And you're going to do that for all 4 sides of your zipper tape. Also, it doesn't hurt to test out the zipper, make sure everything is working properly. So holding my zipper pull here to the left, this is the side I want my zipper to be on. Ultimately, I want the front of my bag to be here, and I want to unzip from the left. So that's why I'm going to hold it this way. If you want it the other way, flip your zipper around. I want to find the center of my zipper. So I'm going to fold it in half so that the 2 ends are together evenly. And I'm going to fold my zipper tape right here down the middle, and holding it, I am just going to rotate it this way, rotate it toward me, so I'm looking at the back of this zipper. And now I want to mark the center. So just with my marking pencil, I am going to draw a line kind of right here in the center of my zipper tape. If you open it up, you can see that is the center of my zipper. We're going to need that in just a minute. Next up, I want to attach the clear vinyl pocket to the front of the vinyl that will be the bag. So I have my bag here with my 12.5 inch sides at the top and the bottom. That means my shorter sides, the 10.5 inch cuts, are on the right and the left. So holding it that way, I want to measure out 1 inch from the top and 1 3/4 inch from the sides. And I want to then place my pocket in that spot, and I'm going to tape it in place with the masking tape. That'll hold it really securely, but it's easy to peel off. Once you get it in place, I find it easiest to measure the sides, make sure everything is straight so that I know that the pocket isn't going to be totally ski-wampus when I sew it on. So now I'm holding it in place, and I'm just going to tape 3 of the sides. I tape the top because we are not going to be sewing that part at all. That's how you slide the the whip card in is leaving that open. I do tape the bottom and the side. So I'm gonna take this back to my sewing machine. I am gonna sew down this side as pretty much close to this clear edge as I can. I'm gonna turn my fabric so I'm sewing this way, and I'm gonna remove this tape, and I'm gonna do the same thing for this side. So I'm gonna sew down each of these 3 sides as close as I can to the edge of that clear vinyl. This should definitely be a stickier vinyl because it's the clear vinyl. And whether you're working with a stickier vinyl underneath or the jelly, this is the time when the nonstick foot is really going to be your best friend in the whole wide world, because it's going to easily sew down these sides. If you don't have a nonstick foot, before I had the nonstick foot, I was using a regular sewing foot, and you can do it. I found I had to sort of slowly and gently pull my vinyl out the back of my machine as I sewed, because it would not advance as well with a regular foot here because it was sticking to the vinyl. So at this point, if you have the nonstick foot, you're going to want to put it in. And if you don't have one, just know that you're going to have to guide the machine a little bit so that it doesn't stick to your foot. Now we're ready to attach the zipper to one side of our bag. Now, because the zipper is about an inch shorter than the sides of the vinyl, we need to find the center of the vinyl so that we know we're sewing the zipper on right in the middle. So you want to fold it in half, line up your edges so that you know you're pinching the exact center of the top of the vinyl. And then you want to make the tiniest little cut right here off the corner of your vinyl. Like, you can't even tell you cut it off until you open it. And then right there, that's your center, that tiny little notch that you are going to sew over and cover. So now we want to put the zipper itself on. Remember, I'm putting the zipper pull over to the left. This is now the front of my bag because I've sewn on this pocket. So with the zipper pull to the left, I'm going to turn it so it's face down. And that center mark that we made right there in the center of our zipper, we're going to line that up with the tiny little notch we made in the fabric. And then we want to clip that in place. Now you just want to line up the rest of your zipper and clip it along the top edge of your fabric. I am going to open up the zipper a little bit. That makes it a little bit easier as you get started, so you don't have to worry about working past that zipper pull right out of the gate as you're sewing the zipper on. If you have a zipper foot, now would be the time to put that on, because what you're going to be sewing on is the back of this zipper. So your sewing foot, your sewing machine foot, is not going to be coming in contact with your vinyl at this point. So it'll slide just fine over the back of the zipper. You don't have to use a zipper foot, but it does allow you to pretty easily get close to the zipper as you're sewing. And that is the goal. You want to sew pretty much as close as you can get to that zipper on this first pass. Once you get up close to your zipper pull, if your needle is down in the thread, you can lift up your foot a bit and you can pull back the zipper tape and get your zipper out of the way. Zip it back up to the part you've already sewn. Then put your foot back down and you're ready to sew, and you're not going to bump into that zipper pull as you go. With your zipper attached, you're going to fold it up like this, which is going to push this seam that you just made to the back. You can see it through my vinyl here. We want a top stitch on top of that so it holds this seam right here. We want to hold this in place so it's out of the way of the zipper as you're using it. You're going to press it to the back. Once again, you can see this seam here. I want to sew right here on top next to the zipper tape, but on the vinyl so it's holding that seam behind the vinyl. And because you're working on the vinyl itself, it will be easier if you put the nonstick foot back in if you have it. And I'm going to move the zipper pull out of the way once again till I get part way down, just so I don't have to worry about bumping into it. You can kind of finger press that seam out of the way, but it's really not going to stay unless you hold it, because at least with this jelly vinyl, it is stiffer. I just finger press as I go so that I can make sure everything is where it's supposed to be as I'm sewing. So now we have half of the zipper attached to the front panel of our fabric. So we're going to attach the second panel to the other side of our zipper. So you have the right side of your front panel facing up. The zipper and the fabric with the pocket, this is all facing up toward you. and you're going to take your second piece of vinyl. And if you had a right side, this is my right side here. I want that facing the right side of this piece. So right side to right side. And you also want this piece to be centered up, but I find it easiest just to match up the sides of the vinyl, and that's how I'm going to get it centered. I match up the right side of my vinyl with the top of the zipper. So you want the top of your fabric lined exactly up with the top of your zipper and the right sides of your fabric lined up. And then you're going to clip that all in place. And I like to clip down the sides to hold these pieces of fabric together because I want to line it all up and make sure everything is straight. I have flipped it over so that I'm looking at the back of the zipper tape. I'm going to be using my zipper foot again because I'm working on the back side of the zipper tape. Once again, my foot is not coming in contact with the vinyl. So I'm going to do the same thing where I just sew down this side as close as I can to the zipper itself on my zipper tape. Now I'm going to repeat the process where I open this up. You can see the one side where I have already top stitched. I need to top stitch this side the same as I did as this side. So I just need to open it up, and I'm going to fold my seam here to the back, and I need to sew right alongside this side of my zipper to tack that seam in place, just like I did with the other side. So I am once again going to put my non-stick foot back in instead of my zipper foot because we'll be working on the vinyl. I know switching back and forth between the feet is a pain in the butt, and you might be tempted to not do it. I've done that. I have sewed many a project on vinyl and not switched it out. I am telling you, your life will be so much easier if you just take the time to switch to the different feet, because it doesn't feel like it's going to be easier, but oh my friend, it is. Before the next step, you want to open up your zipper about 3/4 the way. And then you're going to fold your two pieces of fabric back together so that the right sides are facing. You're looking at the sort of the inside, the back side of the fabric. This is the back side of my zipper. And we want to clip all of these edges so that they are even and straight, because our next step is to sew down one side across the bottom and back up the other side. And the key thing to note here is that you want to sew as close to your zipper tab as possible, but do not sew over it. So very right next to it. Then with a 1/4 of an inch seam, you're going to go down one side, across the bottom, back up the other side, just once again as close as you can get to the zipper tab, but not on top of it. So you're going to want to keep your non-stick foot in for the rest of the project. There's really only a few more steps, and this is going to be useful because we're going to be working on the vinyl for the rest of the project. Next, what we want to do is box the corners. And this is honestly my favorite part because boxing corners always just look so dang cool when the project is done. So what you want to do is find your stitch line. This is the line I just made by going around the bottom of the bag. And from that stitch line, not from the edge of the fabric, but the stitch line itself, you want to draw a 1 inch by 1 inch square. So you can see I'm lining up my 1 inch right here along the stitch line, and this edge here, but my ruler is 1 inch across. I'm going to use a Sharpie to mark those lines. So there's my 1 inch by 1 inch square. I'm going to do that for the other side. And now, even though it goes against everything you believe with sewing, we need to cut that little square out. But I am going to cut just to the outside of that line because I don't want this Sharpie line to remain. You would see it after the fact. So just to the outside of that line, I'm going to cut my 1 inch by 1 inch square. And then I'm going to repeat that for the other side. So you want to open it up and you want to flatten this out and line up one side with the other. You want the seams to line up exactly from this side, this is the bottom, to the side of my bag. And you want one set of seams. These are really thick seams, so you don't want them both on one side. It'll feel lopsided. So you want to press one seam to one side, and then the back one you want to press to the other side. That's nesting your seams together. That's so you don't end up with a big wad of one big seam. And you want to line it all up so that it's flat and even. And you want to clip that in place so you can take it to your sewing machine. And then you're going to do that for the other side. I'm going to flip it around. And you're going to open this up and wrestle with this vinyl a little bit because it is stiffer. And you're going to once again line up these seams so that they are on top of each other. And remember, we put one of these seams off to one side and one to the other side. So you want that to match up across the bottom. So this is my bottom seam here from one side to the other. And I have that one going this way. So I want to make sure that this seam is also going in that direction. Otherwise, your seams will be twisted on the inside. So you line up the two seams on these two sides. Make sure that this top piece is going this way and this seam is going the opposite direction. And once again, clip in place. I'm going to bring this over to my sewing machine. I have clipped this in place. This is my corner that I have lined all up. And what I'm going to do is turn it so I'm sewing across this edge. And I want to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance here, but this section right here is a little bit pointy. So I want to start at this side and end with a 1/4 inch seam. I want to do a straight line across, knowing that if you were to measure in this center area, this is going to be a little bit longer. That's okay. It works just fine. But start over here with 1/4 of an inch and make sure you have a 1/4 of an inch at the other side straight across. And now, because vinyl is so stiff, sometimes the seams will pull apart, and I like to, especially on the box corners, I like to do a double seam. You can do a double seam around the whole outside, like you can do a double seam on all the rest of the vinyl if you want, but I especially like to do it on the corners. So what I'm going to do is put it back in, and just to the inside, just to the left of this seam, I'm going to do another seam exactly like it. And now you don't have to do this next bit, but I find that this is easier to tuck in once we flip the bag if I trim it so that it's straight. So I'm going to trim off that pointy section and just make this a nice flat edge. Now repeat this process to box your second corner. Now actually you are done sewing. We just need to flip it right side out. So we're going to be flipping it through that open zipper, and because it is stiff, if you in any way have any difficulty getting this to turn, if you use a blow dryer on just a warm setting, you heat the vinyl and it will flip easier. As it heats, it gets much more pliable and it will flip through that opening easier. So you want to be able to push all of the corners out to the outside. And these zipper tabs will most likely be the most difficult section for you, and I recommend heating those because they are tight. And if it's really stuck in there or you just don't have the finger strength for it, you can use one of these turning tools that is quite handy for poking these corners out, because you want your zipper tab to be out. And if once you get it all turned out, you have any wrinkles, I know if you use the clear vinyl, that wrinkles really easily. And if you use some of the TPU, that'll wrinkle a little more easily than the jelly will. If you heat that, those wrinkles will come out. Just be very careful as you heat it, because it doesn't take much in the way of heat for it to feel like it is actively melting. So you just need to gently heat it to get all the wrinkles out of the vinyl itself. Are you ready to make a whole pile of these bags to hold projects? They are so fun and so very useful. Happy crafting!